You know, they want leadership, so they'll, go for anything.
Yeah, and trust me, Larry Elder is just anyone that steps to a microphone. Trust me, after having worked with him. I mean, what
can you tell me about him? What can you tell me about him?
He was a misogynist then. He never stopped looking at my producers. I mean, it was just, yes.
He's a misogynist, and yet he's got Rose McGowan standing next to him on the stump.
Yeah, what is that about? Dear God.
I don't know. I mean, she's lost her mind.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, anyway, so no, we knew Larry Elder. It's like some people, there was somebody that did a piece that interviewed him where he basically admitted it was just shtick on the air. And that's what I can tell you, Larry, from doing this, what did I just call you, Larry?
Yes.
Rob, from doing this, I can tell you it's for ratings. It's shtick. Same thing when I used to, know Ann Coulter off air. It's people like that should not be running things. They do it for ratings, for shock value, for clicks, whatever you want to call it. By the way, have I mentioned to you, Rob, I'm going to die mad about what happened to Hillary?
I'm with you on that. Every time I see her on Twitter or on television, whatever, it gets me upset. It gets me upset to know that somebody who won by 3 million votes literally had the opposition had the help of Russian involvement to make that happen, and nothing happened as a result. We impeached Trump twice. Nothing. He's never been held accountable for any of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that, you've been all over Twitter, God bless you, saying, calling on Merrick Garland, if you don't prosecute Trump for his deadly attempt to overthrow the United States government, democracy will not survive. You said put democracy back on track, voting rights, majority rule, prosecute Trump for trying to destroy it. You said we're living under the tyranny of the minority. I don't remember voting for Joe Manchin for president. I mean, it really is. I don't even know how to say it, Rob, a dire time when you have George W. Bush drawing a line between 9/11 and 1/6 yesterday and us going, yay, oh, George Bush, but it's true.
It is true. I mean, we have some allies in very conservative people like Liz Cheney, like George Bush, like Adam Kinzinger. We have people who are living in the real world, who know that 2 + 2 is 4. We have those people, but they don't seem to be carrying sway over people who are living in the used to be called the lunatic fringe.
Yeah.
Now it's just out there, it's like right on the surface.
Rob, I was saying when I opened the show, just on all the 9/11 stuff happening this weekend, I blame a lot of this on Trump. I really do. I think he is the worst thing that's ever happened to this country.
I agree with that. And the biggest threat that he has created is the threat to democracy itself. We are now in a place where democracy is hanging by a thread. And yes, we were always divided, but he drove a big wedge into that, to the point where you've got, I don't know if it's 25% or a third of the American public that wants autocracy. And we know from the past that autocracy can take over a country with 25-30% if the way the system is constructed. So here you have this recall where a small minority of people have a chance to recall somebody who, like you said, got 63% of the vote. We have Hillary Clinton losing with 3 million more votes. With a little tweak here and there in 3 or 4 states, Biden, who won by 7 to 8 million votes, could be the loser. So we have this rise in autocracy that is right at our doorstep. And if we don't get voting rights, we have to defeat the recall, but we've got to get voting rights. If we don't have solid voting rights where everybody has access to the ballot box, we are going to slip into an autocracy.
Rob, I'm heartened, as I think you are. You tweeted, the mark of a great president, a man who's willing to stand up and fight for all of us, even the ignorant and misguided. We have such a man in Joe Biden. I love what he did on vaccine mandates. And I think you've heard that he's going to pick up the phone to moderate Democrats, because as you said, You also said on Twitter, whether it's vaccine, voting rights, climate change, or investigating a deadly insurrection, we're sick and tired of being tyrannized by an ignorant minority. Enough. Let majority rule. So let's hope he picks up the phone and LBJ's the bejesus. Speaking of your other movie, LBJ's the bejesus out of Joe Biden or whatever he has to, or Joe Manchin or whatever he has to do. There's got to be a carve out, at least for voting rights, doesn't there?
Yes. Yeah, there does have to be. And if we don't get real voting rights where everybody has access to the ballot box, we'll lose the democracy. And I think that President Biden understands that. I think his head right now is in the infrastructure. I mean, obviously the pandemic and getting the infrastructure bill through, which they'll do. They'll get that through in some form. It'll go through. But then the next big fight has to be on voting rights. And I believe he's, as they say, willing to lean in big on that.
Yeah. Look at women's rights. I have a new opening line. Good morning, Gilead. I'll be your host body this morning. My name is Stephanie. It's funny, Rob. That's funny. Although they pointed out to me.
It's the Texas bill. I get it.
I was worried about getting headphones over my handmaid's hat, and they reminded me that women won't be able to talk anyway, so that won't be a problem, right? Once we become Gilead. Okay. You also said on Twitter, this is my favorite, when you hear Trump say that Robert E. Lee would have been victorious in Afghanistan, you once again are reminded what a huge moron this man is.
Yeah. And when I used that term, effing moron, I was just quoting Rex Tillerson.
Yes. Just his cabinet.
Who also called his cabinet secretary of state, who called him that.
It's one of my favorite news corrections. I'm sorry. He did not call him a moron. He called him a moron. Okay.
Exactly.
But I mean, wasn't this weekend just that? He's just a disgrace and a monstrosity. He's calling a boxing match and attacking Biden. And
and by the way, as outraged as we are, that's how much his followers love him. They love that he went and called a boxing match. They love that he thumbed his nose and he wouldn't, first of all, he couldn't go down to ground zero with all the other presidents because he'd be booed down there.
Yeah.
And he knows it, so his followers love that he's, there, calling a boxing match with Evander Holyfield, who's, his average age is deceased in that match.
So, Rob, what do you think obviously Merrick Garland has made some good moves. I know a lot of us have been impatient. He's made some good moves of late, but I agree with you. Trump has got to be prosecuted. We've got to go to the top of 9/11, or it's just a training exercise. It's happening already in an ongoing way. It's going to happen again.
And I want to believe, this is what I want to believe, that there are so many cases to prosecute from January 6th, that he is building the case, that he is prosecuting the insurrectionists that were right there at the Capitol, and hopefully it'll rise up to where we take the people responsible to task, and that is Trump, and that is some members of Congress, and hopefully the January 6th Commission and Merrick Garland will bring that to light. I'm hoping that happens, because if it doesn't happen, if we're saying it's okay for the President of the United States to try to overturn the United States government with deadly force, then we don't have a democracy anymore. It's over. Yeah. So he has to be held accountable. Something has to be done here. Yeah. And I want to believe that Merrick Garland is building that case, because if he decides not to prosecute for whatever reasons, whether you call it political payback, it's not political payback. There was a group of people that tried to overthrow the government, and that Capitol has not been attacked since 1812. So if you don't prosecute that and the people who are responsible, Trump and others, then I give up. I give up. We all have to give up and say this is not a democracy anymore.